Hello everyone and welcome back to our software engineering lecture series. I am Nadia Patel. Let's get started with our today's lecture. So we are in continuation to UML diagrams part 2 and introduction to software testing. From some of the lectures I've started a series on what exactly software testing fundamentals are, which are again a very important part of software engineering. So let's get started with our today's lecture. Under software testing fundamentals, the next point which we will try to study is going to be on levels of testing. So if you're facing your interviews, if you're going through your vivas, or if you're trying to prepare for your theory exams, one compulsory question on testing will be on either what are different types of testing or what are different levels of testing. So in today's lecture, we will try to get one overview on what exactly different levels of testing are. We will try to understand what a system is, how a system is made up of, classification of testing types. Further, we will see levels of testing, types of testing under each level, and finally everything with one example. So one thing which I would ask you all to study or keep in mind to remove or lessen your confusion is, when they ask you what are different testing types, you have to answer with a set of different types of testing. But when somebody asks you what are different level of testing, at that time you should explain it with the help of SDLC. So testing is actually performed in phases, or you can say levels. Once you complete those levels, or if you are under one level, you perform a type of testing under that. So first thing which you should study is what are different level of testing, and then you should head on towards studying or understanding what are different types of testing. So let's take an overview on what are different levels of testing. Testing is usually performed into phases or into levels. When it comes to levels or phases, something which should immediately come in your mind is system development lifecycle. Testing is performed from lowest to highest level with respect to system development lifecycle model. Testing is performed by developers. It is also performed by testers, and it is also performed by your customers or end users too. This is a very important point which you should not miss. And finally, you should perform testing with the help of software or system requirement specification document and test cases. So we all are familiar to what system development lifecycle is, which is a development cycle which can be applied to any type of system. We all know that software process models are evolved from SDLC. Process models like waterfall, iterative waterfall, rapid application development, prototyping model. You can also say agile methodology. All of these models are evolved from SDLC. So when we study SDLC, you can apply it to any sort of development. In SDLC, we have different phases of development. So when we study, we actually understand that actual development starts from design and develop phase. Before that, we are actually analyzing what we have collected in the form of information, in the form of requirement, and we plan the further phases. After design and development, we see a dedicated separate phase of testing and integration. You will see this phase in almost every process model. After this phase, there will be implementation, and finally there will be maintenance. But if you ask me, I have also explained this thing in the previous lectures, that we perform a small iteration. When testing and integration, inside the testing and integration phase, the testers find any anomalies, any bugs, or any unwanted part in your developed system, they return the work back to the development environment, or you can say the team of developers or coders. They ask you to remove that part, fix that part, and you just submit it back to the testing phase. So when you get your already constructed or developed part back from your testing and they ask or demand some of the part to be removed, you actually perform a sort of testing. When we try to remove errors from our system, we are actually removing some unwanted part from our developed part. We are performing a small type of testing. So when we do that, as developer, as coder, you perform small, you can say, type of testing, and then you submit it back to your testing team. They again check your work against the bugs or errors, and then the further processes are done. So these are the phases. You should remember these phases, and testing is an activity, you can say. Even if a separate dedicated phase is kept for testing, as developer, as maintenance team, as quality assurance team, every team need to perform certain checking. When you are trying to check something, you are actually performing testing. Now let us understand how a system is made up of. When we say we check the complete software or complete system, we check it as a whole entity, or you can say a complete unit. But this whole system is divided into subsystems. So you can say, let us take one example, that this is a system of having 14 different modules. Now what is a module? A module is a smallest part of your system. You can call it a subsystem. It is a subsystem from your complete system. It is one single unit, or you can say it is one module. Further, if you want to define a module can be collection of programs. So while or in your computer practicals, we work on single program, or you can say we work on 2 or 3 programs. But a module is a collection of set of programs. It is again a smallest part from your complete system. So this is one subsystem. So let us assume that we are working on a system which is having 14 different modules, and this development or coding or development task is divided into 2 teams, Team A and Team B. Both the teams are supposed to develop 7 modules each. Let us assume it that way. And every team is having 7 members. So every member is allotted one module of development. So while designing, developing and coding, let us say that the developer 1 is working on one module, the first module of, let us say it is a registration module where you are taking users registration. He will be making sure that all the components which he has taken, all the objects he has taken are working correctly or not. All the elements which he has taken, validation, verification is done correctly with respect to SRS and with respect to whatever documents or needs of customers are. So when he performs this checking, when he checks whether his code is working correctly and is error free, he is actually removing errors. That means he is performing a task of testing. So this one single unit or one single module, when it is checked and when it is corrected and it is made error free, you perform unit testing, which is done on single module. So after the task or work of developer 1 is done, he will be giving it to his work to his another members. So he will be joining the 2 parts together and again checking. So let us say that member 2 of team A is allotted with the second module. Now both of them have completed their work, and as a team they are supposed to submit their work to the testing team. So as soon as all the 7 modules will be completed, they will be submitting their work to the testing team, and the testing team will be performing their task. Before that, before submitting their work to the testing team, they should make sure that their work is error-free, their work is defect-free, their work is done with respect to customer's need and nothing else. So after completing checking of single module, now they want to combine both the modules together and check. So when they do this thing, it is known as integration. So what is integrating? You are combining two things together. When two modules are integrated together, it is known as integrated modules. So why is this small activity of integration performed? In unit testing, we check whether the single module is error-free, it is bug-free, and it is working according to our needs or not. In integrated or integration, what we do, we just combine two things together. When you combine two things together, there is a flow of information from one module to another and from another to again to and fro. So this flow of information or flow of data should also be checked. When a module is tested as a single unit, it sometimes works correctly. But when it is combined with the other module, it sometimes starts misbehaving. Now let us understand this with one example. Say for example, the system is of a shopping website and there are two small modules from these 14 modules. The first module is of registration, user registration, and second module is login. So what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to register a user before asking him to log in. So while performing this phase of registration, or you can say this activity of registration, you generate a username and password. In the second module of login, you are going to check whether the username and password matches or not. Once it matches, you are going to allow the user to log in the website, and then the other 14 modules of your website will get highlighted to the user. So here, when you're performing the phase of, or you can say part of login, you check that username and password matches or not. But this username and password should be first generated in the registration phase. So in the registration part, when you generate a username and password, this data or this information flows from unit 1 to unit 2. So while submitting or before submitting these two modules to your testing team, we should make sure that whether a new user is getting registered properly or not, username and password generated during this registration phase gets logged in successfully or not. If I am trying to give some different random username and password, is it allowing me to log in or not? So these are certain things which we check. We make sure that whether these things are correct or not, and only then we will submit our work to the testing phase. Please make a note of this, that we are still in the development environment. We are still in the coding environment. We have not switched from coding to testing. I know we are discussing types of testing, but before that we should understand how practically the workflow is. So after you are satisfied as developer, the developer 1 and developer 2, after integration, after combining their modules, if they are satisfied that yes, the code which I executed during the registration is working correctly, the data which I saved in the database is successfully getting called in the login part, and the login is successful. Both the modules are correct now. This is how slowly and gradually you will complete all the 14 modules, and then all these modules will be integrated. They will be combined, checked whether the information flow from first module to the 14th module is flowing correctly or not. And after that, the work will be submitted. Again, this will take one more activity, which is integration of two teams. So as a team, you will be submitting team A's work. Team A and team B will be again combining their work, and then the whole system will be formed. So here we are still in the design phase. we are still, you can say, in the developing phase, or we are still in the coding phase of SDLC. And we have performed certain checking. We have checked whether username is correct or not, whether the username in the process of registration is only getting logged in or not. So when we are performing certain checking, we are actually performing a small activity of testing. So when you check a single unit or a single module, it is known as unit testing. When you combine two modules together, when you integrate it, it is known as integration testing. Now let us take a formal classification of how exactly software functional testing takes place. So we saw that how a system's single module or single part is checked, verified, then further it is integrated, and then all the modules come together, they get combined together and one system is formed. Now let us understand how exactly every type of testing is performed. So these are the types of testing, or you can say levels of different testing. The first level is unit testing. When you're working on a single unit, which we saw, which was the registration part or login part separately, when you're checking it separately, if I'm checking for a new user registration, if I'm trying to register the same user again, it should give me one error that it is you are already registered. This should be done on the basis of mobile number or on the basis of email ID. The email ID already exists, you cannot register. So when you're checking a single unit, it is known as unit testing. It is the single module when you're checking it against needs and requirement of user. This will take place in the coding, design and development phase. So the phase of coding, designing and developing, which we perform before testing, unit testing will be performed by the developer or the developing team or the coding team. Now when you integrate, when you combine two modules together, integration testing is performed. Here you combine two or more modules together and check them against users or customers' need or requirement gathering document or your SIS. You make sure that everything is working correctly, data flow is correct between module 1 and module 2. You ensure the work is perfect and then you hand it over to the testing team. Again, this is going to take place in the coding team. Sometimes, in some cases, single modules can be submitted to your testing team. The testers perform the work of integration and then integration testing is performed. So here you need to actually make sure and keep this thing in mind that integration testing can be performed by developer or it can also be performed by tester. The job of integration, that is the job of combining two modules together, can be done on your level as in your developing environment. You can combine them and then submit. Otherwise, you can submit it as a single work. Your tester will combine it and then perform the integration testing. So what you should remember is when you are combining two modules together, you need to perform the integration testing. The next is system testing. When you put all the modules together as a single whole unit, as a single system, the complete system is tested with the help of test cases. This is known as system testing. This will be strictly performed in the testing phase. Now you have left your developing environment and entered the testing phase. Remember the SDLC, requirement analysis, system analysis, coding, developing. Now you have left the coding and developing phase and you have stepped in the testing phase. Here you will check the complete system. You will check the whole system as a single unit, and this will be performed only by the testing team or by the testers. The next is acceptance testing. This is the very important part of testing, or you can say a very important type of testing. Here the complete system is tested. It is performed in the testing phase, but who is going to perform acceptance testing? Here your customer support team, the one who were in continuous conversation with the customers, your system analyst, your customer and end users will be performing acceptance testing. Actually, many times the customer or end users are invited in the company or in your developing environment. They are given the systems. One tester and one developer just sit along with them, check how they actually work with the software or work with the system. They try to create or generate a checklist. So till now we spoke about SRS, we spoke about, or you can say, test cases. You will be performing testing with the help of test cases. But now acceptance testing will be performed with the help of checklist. You will come up with a list of things to be done and not to be done. And you will just have a conversation and ask the customer to use the system. If he is satisfied with the system, your system will further move from testing to implementation or installation phase. If the customer is not satisfied with your system and it is not according to his need, he just wants small changes in the design, or he is finding the system a bit confusing and complicated in handling, or the data flow, the type of report, structure of reports which you generated is not up to the mark according to him, he will ask for certain changes. When he is asking for some changes, the testing team makes sure that they generate a document, a formal document, which will further serve as a contract that these were the changes which you asked. These changes will be again handed over to the developing team. They will make the necessary changes. Testing will be performed, and again acceptance testing will be performed. So here again a feedback cycle is performed in a way. So this feedback cycle, the feedback is taken from customer, the changes are added, they are again shown to the customer. Once they are satisfied, we just jump out of this phase and then go in the implementation phase. So this is acceptance testing. Finally, we have regression testing. So in SDLC, after installation, we have the phase of maintenance. In the maintenance phase, we are actually performing or offering maintenance to the customer. But say for example, you have developed a project in 2010 and now it is 2022. So years have passed with your project, and are you going to keep it as it is? No. We are going to add some updates. Now everything needs some update. As our Android, we just keep on updating our Android from version 1 to version whatever it is to the latest version. So we just ask for some updations. So if your system requires any updation, let us take one example that we went through the two modules, which is the registration module and the login module. Say for example, in the process of login, you have kept number captcha. We all know what captcha is. You just ask for some addition of two numbers, or you just prompt some number on the screen and you just take it back as input from the user to check whether the user is a robot or not. Now the customer is demanding for image captcha. So you added, so this is a new change now. This is a requested change which as a professional you are supposed to give to your customer. So in the maintenance phase, you can ask or take that request, ask your developing team to make the necessary changes, test it, perform the system testing, perform acceptance testing, and then install your software again. So now again time has passed on and now the customer is asking for the number capture and image capture. Okay, now they want an OTP to be generated. So after registration, when you're trying to log in, they have some security issues now. And now they're expecting that one OTP should be generated, and when the OTP will be verified, then and then only we are going to allow our customers, our end users, to log in the system. Now this is again one new requested change, and our system needs one update. So again we will take that update, we will ask our developing team to make the necessary changes, perform regression testing, the new update will be added, and the system will be reinstalled. So this regression testing takes place in the maintenance phase. So who are the key people who will be monitoring this process of regression testing? They will be your QA team, that is quality assurance team. They will be your testing team. So these are the levels of testing. So one thing which we should remember is testing is a continuous process. Even if we see that testing is a dedicated separate phase, we have a separate phase of testing, we have a separate dedicated team of testers, your developer is also supposed to perform the activity of testing. So single unit, unit testing, combined unit, integration testing, complete system, system testing. When you're taking users acceptance, it will be acceptance testing. If you want to make some updation, some changes, you want to offer some changes in the already installed software, regression testing. Again, one more thing to remember is integration testing can be performed by developer or by testers. Now this is one more classification of testing. One broad category of testing is functional testing and non-functional testing. So as the name is suggesting, everything which is related to the functioning of system is known as functional testing, and all the factors which are a part of system but are not the functional part are the non-functional ones. So what are they? Let us go through it. Under functional testing, we will go through unit, integration, system, acceptance and regression, which is the earlier category. This category is of functional testing. And when it comes to non-functional part, it is going to be volume, load, stress, security, configuration, compatibility, recovery, and finally installation. So what are these now? So we have taken already one example of a shopping website. So say for example, the regression testing is done, the changes are done, but time has passed now, and the website, the shopping website, has become a quite popular one amongst the region, or you can say the nation as well. Now the number of simultaneous users of this software or this very website have increased. So the volume is increased now. So at the same time, if hundreds of people are trying to shop from your website, the load on the website gets increased. So you're putting some stress. You're increasing the volume, the number of simultaneous users are increased, the load is increased, the stress is increased. When you perform testing, you have certain limitations. So you can perform it with 10 simultaneous users, or you can put a load of thousands of requests at the same time. But when it is multiplied into 100, or you can just say it is amplified, the system behaves differently. So testing is a continuous process, right from your developing to your installation to your maintenance. This is a continuous process. After installation, if some problem of the website getting crashed every hour, or the servers are not that responsive, if I'm requesting it, it is taking some minutes and then processing my request, it is not a good website, I could say. Again, there are some security losses. I just registered in this website, and now I have started getting some unknown calls or SMSs on my cell phone, or my email is blocked now completely with unwanted emails, and I registered only on one website, that is yours. So these are not good things. These should be tested with time, and all these anomalies should be removed. So these part are actually kept under the category of non-functional testing. Now let us take the final look over what are the subtypes of these testing. So unit testing is just one single module. There are no certain further types under unit testing. In some websites I read about this thing, and in some of the content creators, I just went through that and I saw white box and black box testing as type of unit testing, which is completely wrong. White box testing and black box testing are approaches. How do you approach, how do you perform your testing is when you select white box and black box. But these are the categories, these are the major types, and approaches are different. So you should not find any types under unit. Under integration testing, we have bang, top down, bottom up, mixed or hybrid, which are very easy. I'll quickly explain you. Bang, as the name is suggesting, is just get started and perform your work with the help of test cases. Just take the system as it is and just perform testing without even getting into what the code is, what data structure is used, what validation is done. Don't bother about anything, just perform your testing. That is known as bang testing. Top down is when you pick up the top modules, that is the most important module from your project or from your software, and you start testing that big module first and slowly approach towards the smaller one. Bottom up is exactly opposite to top down. You start with the smallest one. The one which is of less importance should be picked up first, should be tested under integration testing, and then you slowly approach to the important or the bigger one. So if the software development is under top-down approach or under bottom-up approach, you will perform any one from them. Finally, we have mixed or hybrid. This is a combination of top-down and bottom-up. So you just mix and match anything, pick anything, pick both together and perform your testing. This is integration testing. Under acceptance testing, you have alpha, beta, acceptance testing, user acceptance testing, business acceptance testing, operational acceptance, and contract acceptance. As I told you, when we have a feedback cycle, when the customer says that no, I want certain changes in the design, a document is generated and it is served as a contract. So next time when the customer comes in and says no, I asked for some different design, the document can be produced in front of him saying that these were your requests and we have performed those things. So these are the subtypes of testing. So I think this much information in a quick and summative form is more than enough. I hope this was helpful for you. I've tried to keep it very simple and explained a lot of things together. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and give me your feedback whether it was helpful or not. I hope it was helpful. Thank you.